Hello and welcome to the second part of our RTC discussion that I had with PushDustIn. You can listen to the first part already on YouTube, it was released last weekend, but if you're interested in the new part then obviously stick around, and I hope you enjoy. So, the next character is another third party, and who got the same rank as Steve. And I don't think people have that much problem with the character per se, but it did bring up a few arguments I saw about third parties in general. And this was the Monster Hunter from Capcom. And I don't think anyone can deny that Monster Hunter is a huge series.
Yeah.
World is sold ridiculously well. And it's been around since the PlayStation 2. And while it was really big in Japan and didn't really take off until the 3DS over here in the West, it has since had regular releases that have always done really well. It has a ride at Universal Studios Japan that I actually went on when I was there.
Yep.
And it has loads of merchandise. It has its own amiibo. It has its own anime. It's having a movie that will start production in September. So there's so much going on for it that, of course, Monster Hunter's one of the upper series to be considered.
And it also has a Mii fighter costume.
Yeah, as well. There's that, which is obviously a big acknowledgement of the fact that Monster Hunter is popular. And the big argument people had against it was what the producer said about how he felt about crossovers. Yep. But then Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite completely kicked that out of the water by having a Monster Hunter
as well as the costume in Smash.
Nah. I mean, I think his issue was that he didn't like the idea of hunters in crossovers specifically, which is why people were saying, oh, a feline could work. Yeah. But after Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, where they had an actual hunter, that seems to no longer be an issue.
Yeah. Maybe they just fired him.
Maybe. But, yeah, but I think people didn't have an issue with Monster Hunter. But a lot of people started saying that we were ranking third-party characters too high. Yeah. I think when first-party characters like Bandana D and Magalore and I'm trying to think of some other first-party characters that we ranked around the middle. We're getting, average results. And then third parties like Monster Hunter and Steve and Arl, and there were also a few more, were all getting quite high results. A lot of people were like, why is this happening?
Well, I think one thing is that I think you and I are on the same page with this. Is that Sakurai has really started to focus more about characters and really getting working with different brands, especially with the DLC in Smash for Wii U and 3DS. I think that because of that and his desire to want to promote Japanese IPs, which he said in the barrier of AAA games is high or something like that. That's the name of the column. We feel that more third parties is probably likely. Yeah.
I think that as the pool of all-star Nintendo characters shrinks, the amount of third parties we're going to get is going to rise.
Yeah, and how do you get people to be excited for the next Smash? You get their favorite character in. How do you get their favorite character in? Well, most of the Nintendo ones are already in the game.
Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean we're going to be suddenly every character is going to be third party and we'll get hardly any. It's still going to be Nintendo focused.
Yeah.
But we're going to see. So there was 2 third parties in Brawl. 2 got added and 1 removed in Smash 4, but that means 3. And then DLC added an additional 3. No, Rayman. Not Rayman. It's Ryu, Cloud, and Bayonetta. So 3. Yeah. And so that's now 6 third parties, and that's just I could see another 4 being added in the next game to bring it up to 10, even before DLC, and that's including if Snake comes back. That's that's just going to keep getting more and more. I don't think they'll take characters from the same games, like Sonic won't probably get Eggman or Tails. They'll probably take from another IP to represent that, but as Smash is evolving to be more than just a celebration of Nintendo, but a celebration of gaming as a whole. And I think there are really good ways they can do about it. One thing I would really like is more Mii costumes around third-party series.
Yeah,
I don't expect... as much as I like Goemon, I don't see him getting in over Simon or Bomberman, but I think Goemon Mii fighter costume could be a very likely thing to see.
Yeah, and it would make a lot of fans happy.
Yeah, and I think going ahead with that and having trophies as well based around third-party series, like more than just we kind of saw that, but Pac-Man also kind of counts as Namco Museum. But we had like the Puka Puka trophy, and the Gallagher, or is it Gallagher or Gradius? I can't remember. I think it's Gallagher. As an enemy and stuff like that, and an item. So like, they're dipping into it with Namco at the very least, but I'd like to see this more with other third-party series as well.
Yeah, and I think a lot of third parties would be interested in that as well.
Yeah. But something else I brought up when I was talking with Artsy Omni a few days ago, as of this recording, that I also wanted to mention here, is that I can't consider... I have to consider every rating as if it's coming from the roster that we know is confirmed, and not from the other RTC. Because if I did the other RTC, I have, 13 characters, I think, who could get it. And so I would be rating those 13 high, because I have my reasonings, but then every other character would be low, if I'm comparing them with each other. I'd be having stuff like, I'm going to give Elmer a 70%, but I'm going to give Rex and Pyro a 40%, and my reasoning is that Elmer is already in, so I doubt we'll get another Xenoblade character. Like, I can't make an argument like that.
Which is why I gave individually.
Yeah, because they're both because I think they're both likely. I gave both Elmer and Rex and Pyro the same score. But if Elmer gets revealed at E3, and then I was to do another Xenoblade character, then I might make the argument. Well, I know Elmer is in the game now. Yeah. So I don't think Fiora has as high a chance anymore. And this is the same for third party. If say Simon Belmont gets in, if I was doing Bomberman, that chance would be lowered, because I don't know if Konami will get two characters in the same thing. If we get Leon from Resident Evil, Monster Hunter might drop for that same reason. And it's going on like that. That's how I'm going to view these ratings, because that's the best way to do them. So that's why when covering a lot of third parties, a lot of them are quite high. But if one gets confirmed to be in, they're going to start dropping.
Yes, because now we have a much more limited pool to draw from.
Yes.
And like the number of third-party characters is probably not going to be too much, but we're still expecting some third-party characters.
Yes. So I don't know if you had any more comments on third parties.
I was going to say that the next character that we should talk about is actually Leon, just because it segues into really nicely.
All right, let's do that then. From one Capcom to another, we'll jump ahead a few videos and go to Leon.
Yeah.
And Leon has a lot of the same things that Monster Hunter has.
Yeah.
I gave him 65%, which was 10% lower than Monster Hunter. But Leon also Resident Evil has a ride at Universal Studios. It has a successful movie franchise. Say what you want about the quality of the movies, but the Resi 6 movies, not counting any animated ones, are like the best-selling video game movies of all time. And I'm pretty sure it has manga, because everything has manga in Japan. But it's got figures and animated movies, and has loads of games, has spin-offs.
Yearly rides at Universal Studios Japan.
Yep. There's been huge PR stunts over here in the UK. There was one thing where they hid like a bunch of decapitated hands around London for like Resi 6 or something.
I remember that.
Yeah, they make Resident Evil into a big deal because it is like one of the big video game franchises. A lot of people were telling me after this video came out that I gave a Resi character too high a chance. But to those people, I'm just going to say, well, Resident Evil is a bigger franchise than Castlevania, Rayman, Bomberman, Puyo Puyo, and any other series that you could think of that's your favourite that's not Monster Hunter or still Minecraft.
Yeah, Resident Evil is a series that has been consistently on people's minds. Like it's just existed, for a long time and has remained popular. Unlike other series where it's had like really humble beginnings or really like stronger titles at the front and then weaker titles at the end. I think the Resident Evil series have always consistently performed well. Yeah,
it's been an up and down dip in terms of quality, but they always sell well. Resident Evil 6, as much as a lot of people don't like it, is one of the better selling games in the series. And then Resident Evil 7 is one of the best selling games in the series. But also a lot of people did like that one. It was a big improvement from 6. And so while the franchise goes up and down as Capcom tries to figure out whether they want to make it an action game or a horror game, it's still always really popular.
Yeah.
And always sells really well.
So yeah, I would agree with that rating. Like, I think 65% is a pretty good rating for a Resident Evil character, because we talked about this before you made the video, Resident Evil is just a huge franchise.
Yeah,
and
the big issue it has,
the only issue it has is the weapons representation, which we've seen Sakurai get around with Solid Snake, with using heavy weapons or focusing on other aspects of their movesets. So it's not impossible, but it is a hurdle.
I remember when we had the Leon Kennedy guest Dream Smasher, that was a big back and forth between me, you, and the guest writer, that the weapons Leon had to use, while we wanted them to be the iconic ones, a lot of the iconic ones are really realistic handguns and shotguns. And we had to think about which weapons can we use that still make sense for Leon, while also not being easy things. I think the knife, we kind of settled on having one of the, not the straight up like realistic pocket knife type thing, but the more curved one, stuff like that he uses in 4, because that's less likely for people to find. It looks a little bit less like a normal kitchen knife. And that was key. And then focusing on knives and having the shotgun as well, rather than the handgun. Although Bayonetta came in and also used pistols, and while her pistols are very stylized, I feel. Yeah, it's also kind of ridiculous to have a pistol attached to your feet. Yeah, although she has pistols on her hands as well, but I think the fact that she has them on her feet as well makes them feel much more in the fantasy than the reality, which Leon doesn't have, because Leon wouldn't have pistols on his feet. But yeah, Resident Evil is one of those franchises that if Sakurai can just get round the moveset hurdle with the ratings, then one of their characters is very likely to appear. Yeah. Yes. So, let's jump back to the one we were going to go on before, and this time jumping back to a first-party series. We have a Fire Emblem character, probably the most popular one to get in, and I think I gave her like 15%? It was pretty low. Yeah, and this is Celica from Fire Emblem. And this kind of goes back to the conversation I was having with, I have to compare it with the current roster, and assuming there's no cuts, we already have 6 Fire Emblem characters. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if the fact that it's Celica and some of the reasonings I gave her, that we'll get into in a moment. I think the chances of us just getting another Fire Emblem character is low, unless someone is cut. Unless we see Roy. If Roy and Lucina go, then okay, sure. But if they don't go, then I don't see another Fire Emblem character. There's also so much competition within the Fire Emblem series for characters. Like, you have the Fire Emblem Switch, which we don't know anything about, but you've seen this strong history of Smash pulling from early from Fire Emblem games, like with Roy, of course. And so, like, we could get the main character from the next Fire Emblem game. We don't know. And then, like, there's just so many characters and so many ways that you could pull a unique character from Fire Emblem that I don't know if Celica would have a strong chance. Yeah. I think the issue that a lot of people had with me with Celica is that I said that she would just be a Marth clone with some added magic, which a lot of people don't like, because a lot of people view Celica as a mage. And I used Fire Emblem Warriors as the example, and I want to point out that Fire Emblem Warriors, the devs said at some point in an interview last October that Celica was decided earlier in development. Like, they decided on Celica before they knew Echoes was a thing, because Celica was still really popular. Yeah. And so she was always... As people say, oh, she's only a Marth clone because she was added really late into development because Nintendo forced them to. But this doesn't seem to be the case. And it makes sense in Fire Emblem. If you think back to Gaiden, the game it's originally from, Alm is just Marth. He's Marth with green hair. And then Celica is also Marth with red hair, but can also now use a bit of magic in exchange for, like, her physical strength. But they both use swords and play the exact sort of same style. in the remake, they made Al much more Crom-like, making him much bulkier and fighting a bit like a mercenary, which makes sense because he's meant to be a villager. Whereas Celica is a member of royalty, she's a princess, so it makes sense that she fights like the princes do. Using the sword, same finesse sword style. And this is what Sakurai commented about with Marth. Yeah. He said that his style is a lot more like dancing when compared to Link's, which is a much more rougher.
Yeah, and he said Marth was more technical on a sword.
Yes. And when you look at it, Roy is the exact same in his games. He's slightly less experienced than Marth, but he's also very technical. And Celica is the same sort of thing. She just has the ability to use magic. Mm-hmm. And while I could see the argument for a semi-clone idea where all of her base attacks use magic, like her specials, but then her standard attacks use the sword, but I can't visualize how the standard attacks would be any different from Marth's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, there's only so many ways you can swing a sword and have it be unique, and we're running low on those options. And so, with all of this in mind, Celica makes sense if they wanted to take Marth and have a quick semi-clone turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't see that happening for the third time.
I mean, it's like, if it's kind of a situation like if they have extra time, then yes, but they won't plan on that.
Yeah. And even if they have extra time, I don't think another Fire Emblem character would be the way they'd go about it. There are other characters, like, I know people don't like it when I say this, but Dixie Kong, who could easily be taken from Diddy. And then you have like straight up clones like Blood Falcon for Captain Falcon.
Mm-hmm.
And Alf for Olimar. Like, these are the characters that they could take time to make, and these are the series that should probably get more representation, and this is the best way to do it through.
Yeah.
Unlike Fire Emblem, which is perfectly fine, and to be honest, should probably be represented in terms of stages and items and assist trophies now instead. I mean, Fire Emblem has a lot of characters. A lot of people want that gun from Heroes as another summon item, and that could be the best way to represent all of Fire Emblem's characters. Have them be Pokemon-esque summons.
Mm-hmm. I will say that also, even when they come up with clones, they still have like a unique draw to them. Mm-hmm. Like Pichu was picked maybe because he worked with Pikachu, but also because they had the idea of the damage and mechanic.
Yeah.
With Roy, it was like an early promotion. Dr. Mario, maybe the music, but I feel like with every clone they've had kind of like a reason, like why they added it in, and not just for the sake of filling in the roster.
And I think Dr. Mario was picked because he got that request, didn't he, for a Dr. Mario to be a costume.
Yeah.
But Pichu is a good example to go with Celica, because one of the comments I made on Celica is that Pichu had the damaging himself mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
And this was part of the fact that Pikachu's whole niche was that he was the joke character.
Yep.
So he's weaker than Pikachu. He hurts himself. If he crouches, he falls asleep. Like, Pichu has a lot of stuff. A lot of people like to just focus on the damaging thing, and it'd be like, he's a joke because he hurts himself. That's not the case. That's just one part of the overall package.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing with Celica's magic in Gaiden is that Celica has to hurt herself in order to use magic, because she's using her life for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see Sakurai adding a character where the attacks hurt themselves unless it's intended to be purposely weak, like Pichu was. Yeah, and while that fits for Pichu, I don't think that fits for Celica.
Kind of like going back to the joke character idea.
Yeah. And one of my comments was the fact that Sakurai removed Pichu and removed this idea of someone hurting it and didn't bother bringing that back on another character.
And there hasn't been an intentionally joke character in Brawl or Smash 4 Wii U or 3DS.
Unless you think Jigglypuff has gone back to that in Smash 4 with no buffs and nothing else.
or Zelda.
Or Zelda, yeah.
But not intentional.
Yes. And so I don't see... to be fair, talking to Gwen in Discord, she brought up one idea for Celica, that her sword attack, she uses the healing sword, where when she hits people, she can recover some health with smash attacks, but her special attacks do damage to herself. Okay. And these could be a nice counterbalance. And to be fair, that is an interesting idea.
Yeah.
My only issue is with healing characters in Smash in general, because if someone gets good at Celica, never bother using the special attacks.
Yeah, they just
always use the standard attacks. You just consistently heal yourself. And a lot of professional players in Smash don't bother using the specials anyway.
Mm-hmm.
they're very much more casual focused because the standard and smash attacks always do so much more damage and are usually quicker to pull off. So I think that would just that wouldn't be very well balanced on Celica. And the healing sword isn't her main weapon, so
yeah.
With everything in mind, with the Fire Emblem characters, the way Celica is in both her own game and Fire Emblem Warriors. Fire Emblem Warriors is the most obvious way to show it because she is just a straight up Marth clone in that game. Mm-hmm. But it is the same thing in Echoes and Gaiden.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just don't feel like Celica has a chance.
Mm-hmm. I would say like 10-15% is probably reasonable, just because Sakurai has talked about with the inclusion of Corrin how he kept on going back and forth if he should add another Fire Emblem character. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how much further he'll push it, and I think that there are other reps from Fire Emblem that would be more interesting.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Fire Emblem's going to get another character until the other series have kind of been dealt with.
I think it's possible that he'll still get another character. I
think how Brawl existed to kind of fill out the series that felt lacking. Mm-hmm. I think Smash for Switch could be the same sort of situation.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, so now onto another third-party character, the last third-party character on our list. This one wasn't done by either myself or Push.
Yeah.
It was actually done by Liquid, so we can't really go into the exact reasonings he did this.
Yeah.
But he gave Rayman a 25% and pissed off a lot of people.
Yeah, I would agree with the comments that I feel like his reasoning in the video didn't line up with his score.
Yes. That was the main concern. And while I would argue that all of my ratings on my videos have matched up with what I was saying, and maybe if you didn't think so, maybe I just didn't explain it well enough.
Pauline!
But with Rayman, I completely agree, because he says at the end that Rayman's probably one of the more likely third-party characters, and then goes ahead and gives it a 25%, when there's so many more third parties in the rest of the series that have been, when we say they're likely, they're high, in the 60s to 70s range.
I will try to defend Liquid. Maybe he just doesn't think a third-party character is very likely at all.
Yeah, and that was my thinking as well.
So and maybe in his mind he's just like saying, well, of the third parties, Rayman's very likely, but third parties aren't likely, so he's pretty low.
Yeah. Now that was the only reasoning I could give in my head for why Rayman would be so low. Because as I said earlier, I would have given Rayman about 60.
Yeah. I would say like 50.
Yeah. Because, but 25, it just seems a bit low down.
Yeah.
And I think this was the big reasoning that I wanted to go into at the beginning of this video, how the ratings are structured. Mm-hmm. Because, if the character is one of the most likely third parties, they should be having the likely animation and
I will say
being
that,
in the likely ratings rather than the other way around.
One issue that one thing that people should keep in mind is that with RTC, there's so many people working on it. Like NantenJex is obviously the one that you guys are going to see the most, but there's NantenJex, Liquid, Epic, Martin, Mango Viking, Voyager, and Real Hero of Winds, Liquid.
And Triss is going to be starting soon.
Triss,
Spazzy is just
Spazzy.
starting.
So that's 8 people right there. Yeah. And 8 people who are looking at these scores in different ways. Mm-hmm. So that's why, even with the ones that we've talked about, it's just, NantenJex and me in this video, we're still disagreeing on some of the scores.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing to keep in mind. It's not like a series that you're supposed to look at in the full and be like, okay, well, Steve got 75% and Monster Hunter only got 60%, so Steve is going to get into Smash. Yeah. You're supposed to look at each character individually, listen to the pros, listen to the cons, and then see what you think. Yeah. The score is just there to kind of give what that person who's making that video, what they think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People like scores, so we wanted to have a score for people to be able to look at. But I would much rather prefer you listen to the pros and cons and make your own decision based on them.
So please
focus on the percentage.
Please don't skip to the score and just turn off the video. Yes. I know a lot of you guys are doing that because I can read it. I can tell by your comments. Don't do that. You're not.
You're missing out on the full experience.
Yeah, it's the same with like reviews. Like people who just like focus on the review instead of listening to the reasoning and rationale, they often misunderstand why that review got that score, why that game got that score.
Agreed. All right, but I don't think we can really talk much about Rayman without Liquid being here. So if he wants to leave a comment or something himself to add to this discussion, then I'll let him be the judge of that. But the last character we had on our list, and one of the more recent characters at the recording of this video, is Alf from Pikmin, who I gave my highest score of 85% so far, which I think is tied with the Ice Climbers for the highest score. And a lot of people didn't agree with me on this. And I just want to give my justification for Alf, because he's in the game already as a costume for Olimar. He has the announcer call for him. I mean, they might change the announcer, so that doesn't really mean anything. Yeah. But if they are taking from Smash for Wii U, that's what I'm assuming on this at the moment. That it's started off, and there's going to be a lot of assets for Smash for Wii U, so we won't see any cuts and stuff like this. And if this is the case, Alf is going to come back, whether it be a costume or his own slot as a clone. And we have to think, the only con when I was writing this script, because I didn't intend originally to give him 85%, but when I was writing the script for Alf, and I wrote down all the pros, I started thinking of the cons, and I just couldn't think of any.
Yep.
Like, he's still the latest Pikmin main character, unless you count Olimar in Hey You Pikmin, or whatever it's called. And, like, we don't know anything about Pikmin 4. A lot of people said I should bring up Pikmin 4, but we know literally nothing. It could star Alf again, as far as we know.
We just know it's in development.
Yeah, so... with all this in mind, and Pikmin's a series that I think could easily... I mean, if it can be justified to have a spin-off, I think it can be justified to have a second character. And a clone makes sense because basically all the characters play exactly the same. People are like, oh, Louie's more unique, but I don't see how he really is, except personality-wise,
You got to think about the Japanese name for these characters is Pikmin and Olimar.
Yeah.
Like, exactly. The Pikmin are the star of the moveset.
Yeah. Pikmin and Olimar, and then Pikmin and Alf. And I mean, I think in Smash for Wii U, I can't say why Sakurai didn't do it. It could be because of time. We know that they had planned Rock Pikmin to be in the game. I don't know if that was for Alf or if it was for Olimar.
It was confirmed. Remember in the development notes that we translated, it said that to look into the development notes that were put in his Famitsu book. It's on Source Gaming. I remember Massman translating these. It says that the Rock Pikmin were intended for Alf if he was separated from Olimar.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay then. I completely missed that.
Yeah,
well, that helps to justify my point even more. He did have plans for Alf
the part that we translated was like a document where like Sakurai like prioritize certain tasks and stuff like that, and so like it's like change this attack to lower percentage, or look into this attack and see if it's balanced properly.
I remember seeing that for Shulk and King Dedede. Yeah, but I must have completely missed over.
We did Alf much earlier actually.
Okay.
Because it basically confirmed that Alf was considered for that separate slot.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
I must have completely skipped over that. I knew that Rock Pikmin were there in the data.
Yep.
But I didn't know that they had been thought of for Alf.
I think it was just either a time constraint or they couldn't get it balanced properly. Or it was an issue with the 3DS, because you already know that the number of Pikmin were reduced from 5 to 3, partly because of the 3DS.
Right, and this is one of the points that I brought up in the video, in that with the Switch, that issue with 3 to 5 Pikmin probably won't be a thing anymore. And if they're trying to think of ways, because one reason I was thinking that Sakurai might not have, and why they wanted to have Rock Pikmin and all that, is because they couldn't think of a way that Alf would be that different enough. Yeah. I mean, I'd argue Dark Pit and Pit aren't different at all, but that could be a reason that could be a reason against Alf. Yeah. And I understand that, But in Smash for Switch, if they could bring back the 5 Pikmin or 6 Pikmin, you could have Olimar with 6 because he's the more experienced captain. And Alf could have 3, but he could have the Rock Pikmin, which are much stronger than any of the other Pikmin.
Yeah.
Like, Rock Pikmin their big thing in Pikmin 4 is that, Pikmin 3, is that they can break, like, diamond, or it might be ice, but diamonds and stuff like that, they're really hard. So if they're in Smash, they'd have to be the strongest Pikmin, and potentially even bury people if they're at a high enough percentage, is my thoughts.
Or break shields.
Yeah, or break shields, like... So if you give Alf a powerful Pikmin, but he has less Pikmin and he doesn't get the purple and white ones, then I think that would work really well. You could also give him the flying Pikmin. Maybe they grab onto people and try and lift them up into the air. If you can throw... Like, obviously it has to be balanced. If you can throw 3 Pikmin on them, maybe it lifts them up.
I will say one thing about the Pikmin. If they do separate Alf, I don't think they would give the Pikmin different damage values based on who was controlling them. I think
they wouldn't.
Like, a lot of people were saying, like, oh, they could differentiate Alf by giving him, like, higher, electricity damage or stuff like that. I don't think they would do that. I think the Pikmin would, if they're shared among the 2 captains, they would have the same damage output, because otherwise it would be too confusing for players.
Yeah. No,
like, you'd have to consider, oh, wait, who's controlling this Pikmin? And that doesn't really make that much sense.
Yeah, I agree on that. There are other ways that you can have the damage be, if you really wanted to increase it like that, and not just using the Rock Pikmin. I mean, there are some... I've got to remember looking through Olimar's stuff, but I feel like there are some attacks where Olimar swings Pikmin or stuff and hits them with it. And you could maybe justify that Alf's swing isn't nearly as good. Like, the force that Alf uses to hit people with Pikmin is a lot weaker than how Olimar does it. But there are other ways. I mean, you could have potentially Alf can throw Pikmin further than Olimar or something like that.
Yeah.
And it may be with... Olimar's recovery... obviously is worse depending on the amount of Pikmin he has out. So if you give Olimar 6 Pikmin, his recovery is naturally going to be worse than Alf's, who only has 3. And that could be another way to differentiate the 2 of them.
Yeah.
And so I think there are ways that Alf can be done, and he was planned for Smash for Switch to be his own slot, and likely missed out because of time constraints or 3DS constraints, which won't be a factor here. They always add clones towards the end of of development, and Alf, with all the assets already there, just makes too much sense to be an easy addition towards the end of the game.
Yeah.
And I'm super confident that that's going to happen,
and
which is why I felt comfortable giving him 85%.
And we know the series is still healthy.
Yes. The series is still relevant enough that it could get 2 characters, and all the captains in Pikmin play the same.
Yeah.
So the focus is on the Pikmin. So unless you're going to add like a Bulborb or one of the various animals in the game, it makes sense for them to be clones of each other, captains.
Yeah, I agree completely. I wouldn't have given him 85% because I think that's what the score I gave to Wolf, or something around there.
I think it was Ice Climbers who get 85. I think Ice Climbers is the highest,
okay,
but I don't think anyone has 90 yet.
Oh, okay. So I would give Alf maybe like a 75-70% maybe. Like, I would look at whatever I did for Wolf and rate him lower than that.
Okay.
So I still think Wolf is more likely than Alf.
I think Wolf was 75%. I remember thinking you were going to give Wolf higher than you actually did, but it was still in the upper levels of things.
I with me, like, I was trying to avoid giving characters a really high score because I didn't want to, like, make it seem like, oh, this character's a shoo-in, and then people would be upset at me, like, when the character's not in the game. So I was personally trying to avoid, like, the really high scores and really, really low scores.
Yeah, I think that's the consideration I haven't taken into account.
Yeah.
Well, I've given quite a few characters high scores that now if one of them doesn't get in, I'm a bit like, oh, whoops.
Yeah. And with Ice Climbers, I want to really illustrate that there are some potential problems with their inclusion.
Yeah.
But I still think they're very likely.
I
wouldn't be surprised if they're in, but I don't want to say, like, they're 100% going to get in, because that's not the case with any character, except for Inkling and the ones that they showed.
Yeah. No, I agree. Okay. Alright, well, that's covered all... we've been talking for like a good hour and 10 minutes, so maybe I'll make this into 2 videos. I guess you'll find out if you're watching this.
I'm currently sitting in the dark.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. It's like pitch black.
Yeah, the sun went down. I'm in my old apartment. I don't have curtains. So I'm currently sitting in the dark.
Right, well then, we'll wrap this all up so that you can get on your way to your new lit-up apartment.
Yeah.
So, everyone who's watching out there, let us know your thoughts on this. There'll be more RTC obviously out by the time this video comes out. We'll have probably another 7. If we make it 2 videos, it'll probably be another 6, another 12. Mm-hmm. But this will be out before E3, so there shouldn't be anything, unless there's some sort of sudden big Smash Direct. Mm-hmm. There shouldn't be anything getting in the way of this. And everyone needs to look forward to E3, because if I'm thinking correctly, it'll be about, if this is 2 videos, it'll be in 2 days by the time this comes out. So, yeah. Let us know what you thought of our thoughts on RTC in the comments below. Let me know if explaining some of our scores has made them a bit more understandable for everybody.
Or if you're not satisfied.
If you're not satisfied, let us know. We'll probably do more of these as more videos come in.
Yeah.
And if there are more controversial picks and stuff that we need to justify, we'll probably do it. So, yep.
Yeah.
If you like that, hit that like button and hit subscribe. There's a bell notification thing because YouTube is a pain and sometimes doesn't notify you of new videos. And yeah, do you have any final thoughts you want to say, Push?
Stay tuned for more information and let us know what kind of content you guys want to see from us, and we'll try to accommodate that.
All right, and with that, always remember to return to the source.